Today we are going to explore my favorite biome in Minecraft, the lush caves. I mean, what's not to like? There's axolotls, and it's pretty, and yeah, I just like it a lot. And while we do that, I've got some pretty scary Reddit stories to read today. So yeah, let's get right into it. The first story today is from r/nosleep from user nocardiologist1353. My father left me one rule: keep water by the bed. I'm scared to go home. In fact, I don't think I will ever return. I don't care that everything I own is there, or even that it's my childhood home. I'm never going back. It was only a few months ago that I received the call that would change my life. I sat in my dorm, studying for my psychology exam, when the monotone chirping of my phone broke through the tranquil silence. Hello? I answered blankly. Yes, am I speaking to Aaron? A thick, masculine voice broke through the speaker. Yeah, it is. Who am I speaking to? Well, ma'am, I'm Sheriff Watterson from back in Centerville. Your father is Roger, correct? My voice cracked as I whispered, Yes, is everything okay? A heavy, pained sigh came through the phone. Dad's funeral was harder than Mom's. Mom's was a long time coming. The cancer had pillaged her body for years. It laughed with glee as it poisoned her blood and left her a hollow husk months before her final breath. But Dad drowned. Not in a lake, not in a pool, in his own home. They told me he fell asleep in the bathtub. 3 days after the sheriff's call, I stood in the small, traditional Wesleyan chapel. As I stood in front of the simple casket, wrapped in a black dress, I realized I was now an orphan. Later that evening, Dad's lawyer sat me down to walk me through the last will and testament. I sat there on the couch in a grief-induced shock. The legal jargon spouted from the lawyer overwhelmed me like a flood. Very few of his words reached my mind, but one of his final statements broke through my stupor. And finally, your father has left you the entirety of his estate, including the house. Wait, what did you say? I asked the lawyer. Your father left you the house, as well as the majority of his earthly possessions, he replied, as if it was the most mundane statement ever. Oh, was all I could muster. Also, your father left you this, he said as he handed me a small, simple envelope that bore my name. Thanks, I said as I stuffed it into my purse. Days passed filled with casseroles, hugs, and sloppy signatures on legal documents. Several members of the family advised that I sell the house to pay for my schooling. But how could I? How could I sell the first and only home my parents ever bought? How could I sell the home that my childhood held? Instead, I kept it. I transferred to an online program, and before long, I found myself moving the few boxes from my dorm into the house that was now mine. A few short weeks later, I found myself alone in the house for the first time since Dad died. No one tells you how loud it is after the funeral, nor how quiet it is after everyone leaves. The silence brought to mind every good memory of my dad, though they were tainted by loss. There would be no new memories shared, no happy hugs as I graduated college, no tearful laughter as he walked me down the aisle. I had every memory of my dad that I would ever have, and as I grew older, they would fade, eventually disappearing altogether. Then my dad would truly be gone. As gentle tears ran down my cheeks, a memory of a note hidden in my purse came to mind. Grabbing my purse, I fished out the letter that bore my name in my father's shaky yet elegant handwriting. A single tear dampened the envelope as I gently opened the letter. My heart awaited eagerly for the wisdom it may contain, yet to my surprise, it only had one single sentence. Always keep a glass of water on the nightstand. I don't know how long I stared at that lone sentence, but as I did, anger boiled up within me, and before long, I screamed. That's it? That's the best damn advice you could think of? Gee, thanks, Dad. I'll always be hydrated at night. How about, I love you, or I'm proud of you? I screamed at an empty house as I slid to the ground and wept. Why did you have to go? Why did you leave me? Side note, guys, that's such a dad thing to do, like to make sure you're hydrated. Anyways, let me continue. That night, I got drunk. A cocktail of anger and grief fueled my drive to the local liquor, where I bought enough booze to supply any frat house for a week. After several bouts with Jack Daniels, I finally collapsed on my bed in a drunken stupor. It was around 3 a.m. when I coughed and gagged myself awake. It felt like my lungs were full of water. I sat up quickly, fearful that I was choking on my own vomit, but as I lurched upward, the feeling passed. My airway opened and I greedily sucked in as much air as I could. My hands shook uncontrollably as I tried to calm down. Standing up, I walked into the master bathroom and bent to the sink to splash some cold water on my face. Glancing up, I saw my sorry reflection in the mirror, and for a moment in the reflection, I saw movement. It was slight, but there in the reflection of the gaping darkness that was the doorway to my room was movement. The kind of movement your eyes notice a second too late. The hair on the back of my neck stood up as the implications reached me. Slowly, I turned and faced the dark void that used to be my bedroom. Armed only with a hairbrush, I cautiously entered the room. "Hello?" I said, trying to disguise the fear in my voice. "Is someone there?" The room was empty. No one was there, and I soon turned my attention to the door to the hallway. Peeking my head into the hall, I looked down both ways, and as I did, from behind me I heard the gentle trickle of water. My journey back to the bathroom felt like it took hours. I kept expecting something to touch me from the dark, but soon I stood fully in the low white light of the bathroom. Before me was the sink. A thin stream of water flowed from the faucet. My mind offered dozens of explanations, but the one I settled on was that in my fear, I failed to fully turn off the faucet and didn't notice until my terror had passed. "It's nothing, just the alcohol," I whispered aloud to myself as I locked the bedroom door and returned to bed. The next morning, I awoke in a strange mix of groggy exhaustion and quiet hope. I found myself somewhat embarrassed about the night before, both the drinking and the fear. And though I was still grieving, I told myself I wasn't going to be controlled by the loss anymore. That morning, I started to unpack and clean. The work was good for me. It kept my mind from dwelling on the loss. Soon, I started back on my studies, which brought me some enjoyment. For the first time in days, I felt hungry. So, I walked a few blocks down to the pizza place, the same one I worked at in high school. Billy, the owner, greeted me warmly with a hug as he told me how sorry he was for my loss. "Thanks, Billy. That means a lot," I replied. "We love you, kiddo, and you always got a job here if you want it." I smiled. "If you're serious, yeah, that would actually be great. I could really use a distraction right now." He nodded. "Start whenever you're ready. We'll take you anytime." "How's tomorrow sound?" He patted my back. "Tomorrow is great." A few moments later, my large pepperoni pizza was ready. As Billy handed it to me, he said, "On the house, kiddo. It's the least we could do." I thanked him and carried my dinner back home. I wish I could say that night was normal. What I thought was just a drunken reaction to grief turned out to be something greater. Every night that week, at 3 a.m., I woke feeling like I was drowning. Every night, the feeling grew more intense and lasted longer than the night before. After a full week of restless sleep, I couldn't take it anymore. Not knowing what else to do, I emailed one of my professors and asked if we could schedule a video call. Dr. Martin was one of my favorite professors. He warmly encouraged my desires to become a psychologist, and after some small talk, I opened up to him. I told him about my father's death, how he had drowned. I told him about my nightmares and the terror I felt as my lungs filled with imaginary water. All the while, he listened attentively. As my account came to an end, Dr. Martin stared intently into the camera, clearly deep in thought. A moment later, he spoke. "Honestly, Aaron, it sounds a lot like grief-triggered sleep paralysis." "Sleep paralysis?" I echoed. "Yes, it seems to be that your subconscious has taken this grief and internalized it in the form of a paralysis experience that mimics the final moments of your father." I stared for a moment as this news sunk in. "Well, is there anything that would help?" I asked. "Well, if you're wanting to go the medication route, I'd have to refer you to someone. But if you'd ask me, medication might not be necessary. Perhaps all your mind needs is some form of closure." I thought for a moment before nodding. "Thank you, doctor. You've been really helpful." "Of course, Aaron. Happy to help." Closing my laptop, I sat there at the end of my bed, trying my best to digest what I had just been told. What would closure even look like? Moments later, it hit me. The note. The stupid one-sentence note my dad had left. The note that was currently hiding in the back of my junk drawer. Soon, I found myself staring at the wrinkled piece of paper. All it said was, "Always keep a glass of water on the nightstand." Why would he write this? The thought bounced around my mind over and over again, but ultimately it doesn't matter. If listening to the note would give my mind closure, I'd do whatever it said. That night before bed, I set a tall glass of clear water on my nightstand. I stared at the cup as my eyelids grew heavy, and soon I was fast asleep. I woke in the morning shocked. Not only had I slept all the way through the night, but it was some of the most restful sleep I've ever had. I felt relaxed and energized, ready for the day ahead. My smile rarely left my face all day. Later that afternoon, Billy remarked, "You're in a good mood today, Aaron. Glad to see it." I chuckled slightly. Yeah, it finally feels like I can move on with my life. He smiled and nodded as we got back to work. That night, I dumped out the glass and filled it to the brim with fresh water. Hopping into bed, I silently hoped that night would be just as good as the night before. Again, morning came, and with it, the renewed energy of a restful night. I woke with a smile on my face, but out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something was different. It was the glass. It was half full. I stared at it for a moment. I vividly remember filling it full last night, but now it wasn't full. It took a moment to convince myself that I had just taken a drink in the middle of the night and simply didn't remember. Weird, I said aloud as I forced a shrug. Despite my efforts, a feeling of unease stuck with me all day. The day itself wasn't a blur. I couldn't tell you one thing about that day. Only that I'd spent every moment of it wondering what happened to the water. Again, evening came, and I found myself filling the same glass with fresh water. As I set it on the nightstand, I took a moment to note the exact amount of water that the glass held. It took longer to fall asleep that night, but eventually sleep took me. Again, I awoke refreshed and happy. But it only lasted a moment as I looked to the nightstand and saw that the glass was a little more than half full. Definitely less than the night before. That day, my mind was consumed by one thing: the water. Did I drink it and I just don't remember? I must have, but why don't I remember? Where else could the water have gone? "Everything okay, kiddo?" Billy's voice broke through my questions. "Oh, yeah, sorry. I just got a lot on my mind." "Well, if you need to talk about anything, just say so." I nodded as I tried to distract myself with work. That night, I had an idea. After filling the glass, I took a red marker and marked the water line. In the morning, there would no doubt be about how much water I'd put in. The next morning, the glass was completely empty. In a fit of anger and fear, I threw the glass across the room. It shattered as it hit the wall. "Bro, why is this person so mad? They just got a thirsty ghost in their house. Why not try putting out like some Kool-Aid or something? I don't know, give the ghost something other than water." Anyways, let's continue. "What the hell is going on?" I screamed at the empty house. That afternoon, as I walked to work, I realized that before I overreacted, I needed to be sure that I wasn't drinking the water. For all I knew, I could have been sleepwalking. If I could see that I was drinking the water, that would put an end to it. I knew my phone wouldn't record all night, and I didn't have time today to drive to the city over and purchase a security camera. So, if I couldn't record video, maybe I could record audio. I often used a voice memo app to record college lectures to help me with studying, and I knew that there wasn't a limit to how long the app would record. By the time I walked into the pizza parlor, I had already decided. Tonight, I would record everything. As night fell, I made another decision. I decided to fill 4 glasses instead of 1. If it turned out that this was just me guzzling water while sleepwalking, 4 glasses of water would certainly cause me to have to use the bathroom, and the discomfort would wake me. And so, with 4 glasses of water on the nightstand, and my phone recording every noise in the room, it didn't take long for me to fall asleep. Side note, I love that the author did this. They made the author use psychology on herself. That's really cool. As consciousness returned in the morning, I quickly turned to the nightstand, and a cold chill ran through my body as I see 4 empty glasses. It's a thirsty ghost. With a sweaty hand, I picked up my phone and began to play back the 8-hour recording. The first few hours, no sound other than my light snoring was heard. I sped up the playback even more, till around 3 a.m., when suddenly a new sound came across the phone. It was a startling sound, the type of sound only heavy inhaling of water can create. It sounded like a thirsty horse was violently lapping water from a drinking trough. It lasted about 30 seconds, and as quickly as it came, it was gone. The rest of the recording was just my snoring. I was horrified. That couldn't have been me. I couldn't have made those sounds, but I dared not consider the other option. The option that said something else was drinking the water. I hadn't heard any footsteps, no other breathing, nothing, just the unhuman lapping of water. I had no other choice. Hearing wasn't enough. I needed to see what was going on. I called Billy and called off my shift that afternoon. I told him I was sick. He wished me a quick recovery. Not long after, I hopped into my car and headed out to buy a camera. Centerville wasn't big enough to have any stores that sold the type of camera I needed. The nearest store that did was 45 minutes away. I walked into the store and quickly found the tech section. The young man behind the help desk looked up as I approached. With a grin, he said, "Hi, can I help you?" Yeah, you can," I quickly replied. "I'm looking for a home security camera that has night vision and I can access from my phone." "Sure, we got a few options right over there if you want to follow me." Out of 4 options, I chose the cheapest. "That's a good model," he said. "The camera app will work as long as your phone has Wi-Fi." "Great," I replied. After the employee walked me through the setup progression and user functions, I returned to my car and headed home. As my father's house came into view, I was startled by how foreign it felt to me. It was no longer the home that protected me as a child. It was no longer the home that filled my mind with good memories and peace. Instead, it was some twisted version of that place. I wanted to leave and never come back. I really did. It was the house that killed my father, but if I left, then Dad was really gone. As I entered, I felt nothing. No love, no nostalgia, no comfort, only fear. I set up the camera as quickly as I could. I couldn't stand being in the bedroom anymore. The only thing that kept me going was the desire to know the truth. After setting up the camera and ensuring it was connected to my phone, I walked down to the local pharmacy. I walked into the small, dusty place illuminated by dim fluorescent lights that emitted a flittering green glow. It didn't take long to find the sleeping pills that I was looking for. I doubted I could have fallen asleep on my own that night. Some help would be nice. A frail old man stood behind the counter and offered me a gummy grin as I walked up. "Hello, young lady. Find everything you need?" "Yes, sir. Thank you." He looked at the pills as he put them in a small bag. "Trouble sleeping, ma'am?" With a nod, I said, "Yeah, I guess you could say that." "Well, hopefully these will help. Take care now." "You too," I said as I walked out. Night fell. With shaking hands, I filled a glass to the brim with water. Checked one more time that the camera was working and facing both the bed and nightstand, and took my 2 pills. My heart beat fast as I climbed into bed, and with a sigh, I turned off the lamp. Morning came, and I can honestly say it was the best night of sleep I've ever had. With a stretch and a yawn, I rose from the bed, happy and ready for the day. But it took only one glance at the empty cup for all the fear and dread to fall back onto my shoulders. I didn't even bother to change out of my pajamas, as I grabbed my phone and walked out onto the porch. After connecting to the camera, I saw my room at 11:30 the night before. The camera's infrared illuminated my room with an eerie white and gray glow. I watched myself sleep at 3 times speed, and between 11:30 and 3 a.m., nothing happened. The room was quiet and peaceful. But what I saw at 3:01 took the breath right out of my lungs. From beneath my bed crawled a form as quietly and smoothly as fog sliding over mountaintops. It was impossibly tall. When it finally stood, it had to bend over, for its head and shoulders rested against the ceiling. Its back, which faced the camera, was damp and disgustingly thin. Every vertebra of its spine was visible. Its arms reached below its knees. It didn't move like a predator in a hurry. It moved like something that already owned the room. The thing slowly reached for the glass of water, which looked tiny in its massive hands. It raised the cup to its lips and loudly sucked the water down, and after it finished, its neck turned its head to me as I slept peacefully in my bed. As it stared at me sleeping, it raised a hand and gently ran its fingers through my hair, and eventually down the side of my face, where one of its claws pressed against my cheek hard enough to break the skin. At this, I began to stir. I mumbled for a moment, then my sleeping mouth spoke the words. Dad, is that you? The creature stared at me. Then its body shook with wet, choking laughter. And then, with a creaked, unhuman voice, it replied mockingly, "Yes, it's me. I missed you so much, Dad." It then bent over and kissed my forehead before silently slinking back under the bed. I couldn't breathe. My stomach churned as I stumbled off the porch and into the yard. I couldn't make myself look back at the house. I just wanted to get away, to put as many miles between me and that thing as possible. So I got in my car and drove. I'm hours away now, writing this from a hotel room in another state. I'm never going back. I think it knows I left. I've been watching the camera feed, and 30 minutes ago, it crawled out from under the bed. Since then, it hasn't moved. Its eyes have been locked on the camera the entire time. They're horrible eyes, pure black with tiny white pupils. It hasn't blinked once. It's getting late now. I don't want to go to sleep. I'm afraid I'll drown. Okay, so is there any possibility that her dad is actually, like, this thing? I guess probably not, because maybe, that thing drowned her dad. Anyways, huge props to No Cardiologist 1353. That was an amazing story. Anyways, let's get on with the next one. The next story today is also from r/no sleep from user More Tanks. I think something on the subway is feeding on people like me. I first saw her on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I was zoning out, half asleep on my usual subway commute. I always got on the same train, right at the front of the third car. For some reason, there were usually fewer people there. Everything about my mornings was the same. Coffee, some quick breakfast, then off to work. And as an insurance claims adjuster, my job wasn't exactly exciting. But that morning, the moment I saw her, I knew something felt different. Her skin was pale, almost glowing silver beneath her long, jet black hair. Her bright blue eyes were fixed on the darkness outside, staring into the empty tunnel as the train rushed forward. She was mesmerizing. There's no other word for it. As uncomfortable as it was, I couldn't look away, and somehow she noticed. Slowly, without moving her delicate face, she shifted her gaze, those piercing blue eyes landing directly on me. The moment our eyes met, I snapped my head away like a startled kid. Her eyes almost seemed to shine. Her pale face practically glowed, and I could swear there was the faintest hint of a smile at the corner of her lips. I turned my head in the opposite direction, trying way too obviously to look anywhere else, but she didn't stop looking at me. If anything, it felt like she turned even more toward me. I felt embarrassed and strangely proud at the same time. A woman like her, looking at me that openly, noticing me in a crowd like this, it was intoxicating. I almost forgot where I was, just basking in the warmth of that ocean blue gaze. When I glanced back at her, she smiled, but then shyly looked away, pretending she hadn't been staring at me at all. Her pale face was framed by red lipstick, her dark hair falling over her shoulders. I don't think I've ever studied someone the way I studied her. Who was she? Where was she going? The train began to slow, and I snapped out of it. This was my stop. But as I stood up, I saw her rise from her seat too, letting someone pass before stepping off the train. I felt a sudden rush of urgency. I needed to see her again, just once more. That narrow, perfect face, those deep, living blue eyes. I pushed my way through the doors and into the crowd, searching for that black hair. It felt like the world slowed down for a split second. She was already on the escalator, moving upward. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear with her small, delicate hand, and just for a brief moment, just one, she looked back at me. I swear to God, out of all those rushing, gray, everyday people, she saw me again. Then she disappeared into the crowd above. I know this sounds stupid, but the rest of my day felt off after that. It was just a moment, barely anything, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. My mind kept drifting back to her. That radiant look in her eyes, her features, the way she vanished. I felt this strange kind of sadness, like I was already afraid I'd never see her again. But why did it matter? Why couldn't I let it go? The rest of the day dragged by like always. Papers, reports, claim forms, just routine. Then I went home. Part of me hoped I'd see her again on the way back, but she wasn't there. Everything felt duller on the way home. The same people, the same empty faces I saw every day. It was like something was missing from all of them. Something bright. Something blue. The rest of my evening went the same as always. Video games, TV, something to eat, then bed. It's a boring life, no question about that, but something was different. Something was there in the back of my mind, making me look forward to the next morning. And I didn't even understand why. I left late that morning. I was rushing, thinking I'd miss my usual train. I was practically running down the stairs to the platform. Or maybe I wasn't really rushing because of the train. I barely made it onto the platform when, through the crowd, I caught a glimpse of those familiar blue eyes. For a second, it felt relieving. But what was she doing down here? I'd never seen her at this station before. How was she here now? Had I just never noticed? The train pulled in and she stepped inside with the flow of people. I froze for a second, just staring, then snapped out of it and pushed my way in after her. There were way more people than usual. I couldn't even get to my usual spot. But the moment I saw her, standing by the next set of doors, I suddenly realized what had been bothering me about the crowd. And weirdly, I felt better. Because just like me, she looked at me too. Our eyes met for a second. Her ocean blue gaze felt like it was searching for mine. The air around me felt warmer, and for a moment, I wasn't even on that crowded train anymore. It felt like we were somewhere else. Somewhere that belonged only to the two of us. It lasted maybe a second, but it stuck with me. That look, that faint smile, that soft, almost unreal face, it was enough for that entire morning. I don't even know why, but I smiled at her. She seemed to get a little shy, glancing away. Shit. What if she wasn't even smiling at me? The thought hit me instantly. Great, I'm making a fool of myself on the subway. What kind of world would this be where someone like her would be into me? Or even single at all? Side note, guys, the author portrayed the overthinking of men very well. I could feel sweat forming on my back, like this was somehow life or death important, whether some random girl on the train had a boyfriend or not. I looked away, feeling stupid. What was I even thinking? That I'd find love on a subway train? But as I stared blankly ahead, I caught something in the reflection of the dark window. She was looking at me, again. I turned back and for a few seconds, we held eye contact. It was simple, but it felt incredible. This woman, she actually sees me. The train jerked to a stop. People grabbed onto whatever they could. Then the door slid open with a loud click. A wave of commuters poured out of the car. This wasn't my stop, so I stepped aside, letting everyone off. Once things settled down, I quickly moved into my usual spot, but she was gone. I craned my neck, shifting around in my seat, almost falling out of it trying to find her, but she wasn't there. The door slammed shut. I felt that sinking realization. She wasn't on the train anymore. But then I looked out onto the platform, and I saw that black hair. She was standing there, scanning the crowd like a startled deer. Looking for someone? Probably waiting for her boyfriend. Why else would she get off at a different stop than yesterday? Then she saw me. Her expression changed, something like sadness, maybe disappointment, maybe something else. For a second, it looked like she raised her hand. Or maybe I just imagined it. The train started moving and disappeared into the darkness of the tunnel. My mind was somewhere else again. I could barely remember what I did all day. I went through the usual routine, but it felt like I wasn't really there. Like part of me was still on that train, waiting for that beautiful black-haired woman to look at me again, to smile, to shyly glance away. The next thing I knew, I was already home. The whole day slipped away in daydreams, imagining possibilities that probably had no chance of ever happening, or hoping, wishing, that I'd get some kind of sign that she was actually interested in me. And then, just as quickly, I'd sink into this quiet dread, convincing myself it was all in my head. That tomorrow, I'd probably see her with some other guy. I couldn't fall asleep. I tossed and turned, restless, wide awake, and when I finally drifted off, I almost immediately found myself somewhere strange, but familiar. I was on the train, the same gray, ordinary subway car I always rode, but it was empty, completely empty. I was all alone, or at least I thought I was, because when I looked beside me, she was there. Smaller than I remembered, pale, almost unnaturally so, and I knew instantly it was her. She turned to me, those large blue eyes locking onto mine. "Come," she whispered, leaning closer to me. "Come home with me." I could feel the warmth of her body, the soft, sweet scent of her perfume wrapping around me, the way her jet black hair brushed lightly against my skin. My body trembled, my heart pounded. It didn't feel like a dream. It felt real. She adjusted the shoulder of her dark red dress, then slowly rested her head against me. My alarm dragged me out of it. I shot up in bed, gasping for air. My whole body was drenched in sweat, and every part of me wanted to go back to that dream. But was it even a dream? My morning routine blurred together. My thoughts felt foggy, distant. There was no room in my mind for anything else, only her. I was pacing nervously on the subway platform. The crowd kept growing, more and more people piling in. But she was nowhere to be seen. After that dream the night before, I needed to see her. There was no way she just wouldn't be here. That would have completely broken me. Like some kind of lunatic, I kept snagging my head around, scanning the crowd, thinking maybe I just missed her. Maybe she was standing somewhere else. But she wasn't there. I let 2 trains go by, telling myself maybe she was just late. Maybe she took a different route today. But she didn't come. By then, I was already running late for work, and my mood had gone to shit. Even this tiny bit of happiness had been taken from me. The one small light in this miserable life. On the train, I just stared blankly ahead like a zombie. Nothing really mattered. I just wanted to see her. Just for a second. That black hair, those deep, hypnotic blue eyes. I needed to see her. When I got off, I drifted with the crowd, my face completely drained. I wasn't even looking at people anymore. Just legs, shoes, the same pants, the same suits. Everyone moving forward like it was the only thing that mattered in their lives. Then, suddenly, something hit me. A scent. Something I'd never smelled before. Soft, sweet, almost addictive. A perfume that seemed to crawl into your head and start pulling at your thoughts. But the crowd kept pushing me forward. There was no time to stop. No way to figure out where it was coming from. Everyone was rushing, trapped in the same endless loop. I lifted my head, hope flooding back into me, searching for the source of that scent. The scent I'd only ever dreamed about. And then I saw her, like a painting. I was already near the escalator when some overweight, sweaty guy tried to shove past me, telling me to hurry up. But that moment, that single moment, is burned into my mind forever. She was standing there. The crowd moved around her, flowing past like there was some invisible barrier keeping them away. No one bumped into her. No one pushed her aside. But who would dare? She looked excited, like she'd been waiting there for a long time, like she was searching for someone she met every morning. Was she waiting for me? Maybe she took an earlier train and I was the idiot thinking she was late. She wore a light brown coat, perfectly outlining her slim figure. Her blue eyes practically glowed among all the dull, gray people around her. Then she saw me. Her gaze locked onto mine as I moved up the escalator. I could see it, the relief in her eyes, the tension in her face melting away. She'd been waiting for me. When I reached the top, there was no question in my mind. I had to wait for her. No matter what, I had to talk to her. I needed to hear her voice. I needed more. I needed to know who she was. So I waited and waited. Long minutes passed, but she never came up. I started biting my nails, pacing, stepping a little farther from the entrance, but still watching every person coming up. But she wasn't there. The sound of my phone ringing snapped me out of it. Zach, where the hell are you? My boss's voice cut in, irritated. You were supposed to be here 30 minutes ago. We have a meeting this morning. Oh, I didn't even know what to say. Honestly, I didn't care. I was still half watching the subway entrance. I'm on my way, Derek. Just ran into something this morning. I'm coming. I'll be there. I stayed a few seconds longer, waiting for my blue-eyed muse to appear. But no one came. Just the same dull, forgettable people. Finally, I turned away, completely disconnected from reality, and headed to work. I was almost an hour late, but no one would understand. For the first time, I had something to hold on to. I just sat there, staring at my monitor. I barely got any actual work done all day. My mind was stuck on one thing, the woman from the subway. I could see her in front of me, those red lips, those deep, ocean blue eyes, her long, straight black hair. When lunch break came, I told myself I'd go grab something to eat. I ended up at the subway instead. I just stood there waiting, hoping she'd show up. Maybe she'd pass through. Maybe she'd be heading somewhere nearby. Maybe, by some random chance, she'd be there. But she wasn't. I spent almost an hour down there, and honestly, I don't even know what I was expecting. I didn't get food, I just stood on the platform and waited. I went back to work with my stomach growling, but I didn't care. What bothered me more was that I could only ever see her in that one short moment in the morning. Just a glimpse. That's all I ever got. By the time I finally finished work, I was completely drained, tense, on edge, craving just one more look at her. I stayed near the subway station until it got dark, sitting on a nearby bench, watching, hoping I'd catch her on her way home, that I'd finally get to talk to her, but she never showed up. Doesn't she go this way? Did she leave earlier? Why wasn't she here? Was she with someone else? By the time I got home, my head was pounding with questions. I just wanted to see her again. At that point, I would have settled for just standing near her on the train. The moment I walked into my apartment, I collapsed on the couch. I was exhausted, but I couldn't rest. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't sleep. I didn't want to eat. All I could think about was her, that woman, that beauty on the subway. By the morning, I was dizzy. The world felt blurred around me. My steps were heavy, unsteady, but somehow I pulled myself together and headed out again. Not because of work, because it was morning, and I could see her again. I could see her. There were way fewer people than usual for that time of day, but I pushed forward anyway, half stumbling down toward the familiar subway entrance. I was barely holding myself together, squinting, searching for that one thing that still mattered. But she wasn't there. Again, and the train didn't come. Minutes passed, nothing. I glanced up at the display. 8 minutes until the next train. Why? It usually runs every 2 or 3 minutes. What the hell is going on today? I pulled my phone out of my pocket. The battery was almost dead. Saturday. I didn't even have work today. When did it become Saturday? How many days have I been searching for this woman? I don't even know what I was doing anymore. I wandered around the neighborhood, sometimes going home, sometimes just hanging around the subway station. There were times I stood out there for hours, just waiting. My entire weekend was spent focused on one thing, seeing her again. Maybe she'd be around the corner. Maybe I'd run into her on the subway stairs, but she was nowhere. I searched for her obsessively, like I was losing my mind. People started avoiding me, giving me weird looks. They probably thought I was some kind of crazy homeless guy living on the streets. I don't even know how many days I went without properly eating or drinking. Sometimes, when it crossed my mind, or when the hunger got too strong, I'd go home. But even that felt unbearable, because all I could do was think about this. While I'm here, she might be out there, going to the subway, going to the store, just walking somewhere. So every time I got home, I'd almost immediately rush back out into the street. I had no idea what day it was anymore. No idea how long I'd been drifting around, searching for that black-haired woman. Then it was morning again. The crowd moved through the streets like it always did. My clothes were filthy, wet, stained, covered in grime. It looked like I'd been like this for far longer than just a weekend. Some broken part of my mind just decided, like this was normal, that I should go to work. So I grabbed my half-empty briefcase and joined the crowd. I stood there with them, waiting for the train. People moved away from me. Some gave me looks, rolled their eyes, but to me it felt just like another normal morning. Until the train arrived. She was on it. Like a beam of light cutting through my dull gray world, her black hair seemed to glow inside the subway car, standing out among all the lifeless faces. Her red lips shimmered, her blue eyes danced, and the moment she saw me, they locked onto me. It felt like I didn't even need to think anymore, like my body was moving on its own, guided by something else. I don't remember who I pushed past, who I shoved out of the way, but suddenly, I was standing right in front of her. The crowded subway car pressed us together, bodies packed tight. I could smell her, that same sweet, almost intoxicating perfume. She didn't look at me directly, acting like she was focused somewhere else. My brain wasn't working. Not a single decent line came to mind. Hey, I leaned closer awkwardly. I mean, we ride the same train a lot. I've seen you around. You work somewhere near here or something? She didn't respond right away. Didn't make a face, didn't turn away. It was like she was just watching me with those beautiful eyes. I mean, I tried to recover. I've seen you around here before. Where do you work? I don't work around here, she said suddenly. Her voice was soft, light, almost musical. I couldn't have imagined anything more perfect. Oh, right, I said, caught off guard. Then why do you come this way in the mornings? I have business here, she replied, smiling faintly as she looked away. It felt like a dream, a perfect living dream. Yeah, I smiled too. Guess I do too, if you think about it. We both laughed quietly. I'm getting off here, she said as the train began to slow. Me too, I answered instantly, without thinking. I was heading this way anyway. She smiled to herself, then brushed her hair behind her ear. Her neck, pale, smooth, almost seemed to glow. She was perfect. When the train came to a full stop, the crowd shifted, and we moved with it. As we stepped off, she stumbled slightly in her heels. I caught her. You okay? I asked, trying to sound calm. Yeah, she said. These stupid shoes, but thank you for catching me. I smiled at her, my chest practically bursting. Walking there with her, arm in arm, I could feel people staring. The jealousy, the judgment, men checking her out, women looking at her with envy. We moved through the station together, like some kind of royal couple, and I don't think I've ever been happier in my life. Where are you heading next? She asked as we reached the top of the escalator. That's when it hit me. I wasn't even at my usual stop. I had no idea where I was. But it didn't matter. I'd already won. I guess wherever you're going, I said with a smile, trying to sound casual. I've got time. I can walk you for a bit. Oh, what a gentleman, she laughed softly, running her gloved hand along my arm. Come on, then. We walked a few blocks. The morning crowd thinned out, the streets growing quieter. I walked beside her, proud, completely lost in that warm haze. I didn't even notice when we turned into an alley. Between trash bags and rotting piles of garbage, she suddenly stopped, slipping her arm out of mine. I turned back, confused. She just stood there. Her face had gone serious, and her blue eyes, they seemed brighter now. Not warm, something else, something sick. They moved like waves, like ocean pulling you under. My dear, she said, but her lips didn't move. Give yourself to me. I heard the words clear as day, but she hadn't spoken them. Or maybe she had, just not with her mouth. It was inside my head. Soft, melodic, pulling me in. What do you want? I asked, my voice shaking. She didn't answer. She stepped closer, right in front of me. Her hand pressed against my chest, too light, too cold. Those shifting eyes studied my face. Then the smell hit me. That sweet, intoxicating scent, but here, surrounded by garbage. It felt wrong, rotting, worse than the stench around us. And then I was on the ground. Just like that. The world spun, but somehow it felt like I was spinning the other way. The woman I had thought was so beautiful stood over me. She pulled off her glove. Her fingers were long, black as her hair, as her eyes. I couldn't move. I lay there on a wet trash bag, everything feeling like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The haze was gone, completely gone. She still looked young, beautiful, but there was something else now. Something not human. Her pale skin shimmered faintly, her blue eyes flickered, unnatural, and I knew. This thing had been playing with me. She raised one of those long black fingers, then slowly grabbed my face, squeezing my mouth open. With her other hand, she forced a finger down my throat. A sharp, tearing pain ripped through me. I felt it, felt that black, claw-like nail scraping down my throat, tearing into something I didn't even know I had. And then something worse, much worse. It felt like something inside me was being pulled out. From somewhere deep, somewhere no one should ever reach. It lasted maybe a second, and she yanked her finger back out. Tears streamed down my face. My lips trembled as her finger slid free with a sickening sound. And then I saw it, a small, glowing blue droplet slipping out of my mouth. Before it could fall, she caught it. She looked at it for a moment, then swallowed it. "I'm sorry," she said, almost playfully, "but this is what keeps me alive, my dear knight." My body still wouldn't move, my muscles locked, frozen. Tears kept falling, but inside, there was nothing, just emptiness. She calmly put her glove back on, adjusted her clothes. And when she was done, she leaned down and pressed a slow kiss against my lips. Then she stood up and just walked away, like she had never been there, leaving me behind. Empty, alone. Everything was blurry. I don't know when my body finally came back to me, or where that thing, disguised as a woman, had gone. I didn't even know who I was anymore. I didn't feel any longing for her. I didn't feel the need to go back to the subway. I was just empty, like a hollow shell stumbling forward. My body felt exhausted, like I hadn't slept in weeks. I hadn't even noticed before, but I wasn't wearing any shoes. I had lost weight, way more than I should have. My hair was matted, sticking out in every direction. But the worst part wasn't how I looked. It was how I felt, or didn't feel. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was like I had lost the ability to feel anything at all. Like that part of me, the part that reacts to the world, that feels something, has been taken. I somehow made it back home. My apartment was a mess. It looked like I hadn't done anything but come home and trash the place for weeks. I collapsed into bed and passed out instantly. When I woke up, I cleaned everything. Myself, the apartment. As it turned out, I'd been fired 3 weeks ago. I got another job, slowly pulled my life back together. But the one thing I couldn't fix was what was inside me. I was like a machine. No purpose. Nothing entertained me. Nothing made me angry. I couldn't feel joy, not even the simplest kind. Days would pass like that. It felt like a mental breakdown, except for one small detail, something I couldn't explain. One day, I was heading home from work. As I got down to the subway, the train I was about to catch was already closing its doors. And there she was, standing inside. That same woman, long black hair, ocean blue eyes. She didn't recognize me, or maybe she just didn't care. She was watching someone else, a heavy-set guy. The way he looked at her, that same desperate hunger. The air around me felt like it froze, but I didn't feel anything. Not a single thing. Not even now. Alright, that was some amazing writing. Shout out to More Tanks, that was really good. Guys, if you're ever in this situation, well, you know what? Scratch that. I really hope none of you are ever in this situation. Watching the OP just turn in from this like functioning person in society down to like the opposite of that, because this woman had captivated him so much is just insane. Anyways, that's all the scary Reddit stories and Minecraft I had for you today. We definitely had some great stories today. Huge shout out to my channel members. As always, thank you so much for your support on the channel. If you guys do want to further support the channel, that links can be in the description. However, it is not at all required. Only do this if you really want to. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.